I guess I got it.
I guess you do indeed.
I guess I'll go it.
Hello,
Hello.
everybody.
All right. Welcome back to SOS. I'm BA,
Sippy. We got the
and
Wesses and Rachel.
we've got a handful of folks in here
And Keith.
already. I'm just moving. I know I'm still moving the camera. I should just bring it right here. That's a little bit easier to read, right?
Yeah, I think you keep messing with it too much. It's gonna break.
What? I'm not gonna break it.
Hey,
There we
Josh.
go. All right.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Dad. Hi, you.
You got. Sorry, folks. I'm clearing my throat and
Oh,
everything. You know,
rats and fun.
having to drink
Brian.
plenty
Dad.
of water. Wife's working me to death.
Not really. If anything, you've been slacking.
No. No.
You just put a shower curtain on PVC pipe. That was
What?
it.
That was not a shower
Casual
curtain.
survival.
I will show all of you what I was doing. I was building a little miniature greenhouse, and she's over here like,
Hey,
wow,
Aid.
this is a. She's like, this is a nifty idea. Never seen this done this way before.
do.
All right, just give people a couple of minutes here
Mm-hmm.
before we get started. Just say some highs and stuff
Mm-hmm.
before
Yeah.
I kick this thing
Same.
off. I know the wife has a lot that she wants to cover, and that goes into
Yeah.
our topic tonight, the what ifs and should haves, and the what ifs and should haves will eat your brain, and that's actually a quote from somewhere from O'Callahan something. It's an Irish. He's a Irish publisher, I believe, something like that. He writes books,
Fish and beans.
whatnot, and excuse me. The
Johnny. Ramirez.
if you think about just saying that, right? Just saying the what ifs and should haves. If you just focus on what ifs, you could go all day long thinking about what ifs. And I was, I w- the simpler ones, the ones that all of us
Crazy.
focus on with what ifs is, the what if you run out of food? What if your water source is undrinkable? What if you run out of this or run out of that? And then you focus with the what ifs. What if kid breaks a leg? What if kid gets sick? What if family members start to get sick? What You see what I mean? I could just keep this going, and you could what if all day. What if
Mm-hmm.
this never ends? What if this is a conspiracy? What if what if the government's listening to me, or all these sorts of things. But you then you start focusing. You got all your what ifs, and then you start focusing on your should haves, and those are the ones that come during SHTF. This should have. And when fighting starts to break out all over the place, or all these sorts of issues you start to have where the what ifs have happened, and the should haves kick in, and all the should haves are kind of pretty common sense, like, right? You
Mm-hmm.
start thinking should have got more food, uh, should have uh, done something better for a water source, or should have gotten more medical supplies, should have bought that rifle when you were planning to buy it the first time, before the chaos struck. You should have did it then. And all of the what ifs and should haves will definitely eat your brain. And uh, a lot's been on my mind lately, and I haven't really made a video about.
That's crazy.
I haven't really made a video about some of the stuff that I've thought about lately, and it goes into like all the playbooks of any situation, especially a crisis, don't, you know, anyone who wants to push an agenda, you don't let a good crisis go to waste. And if you're if you're pushing for an agenda, it's a lot of the stuff that you're going to get fed. And I've even read about it through different uh, different history books will even discuss even different parts of the world where the media outlets had fed propaganda out to everyone, or to make them think something was happening, to make them think this type of event is taking place, and there's nothing there. There's nothing at all, or it's trained paid individuals out doing types of things to stir up folks, to make folks hate one another. And that's all the things that I've some of those things that I was thinking about. And it also goes, like today I was seeing a post from, it was something, the tag about the wall of veterans or something. And from what I gathered from that was either none of them were honorably discharged ever. It's
Me
they're
too crazy.
they uh, it didn't seem real. They seemed very fake to me. And I know a lot of other veterans out there said the same thing I had said, is they seemed very fake. And if they were real, and it they probably
Dutch.
they probably didn't even complete boot camp or something along that lines. Or they're dishonorably discharged, or they really didn't have, you know what I mean? It seemed to me that was all very fake and very staged. It didn't seem real to me. And it started to, it, it went back to everything I've said this past week, that I've been, just kind of
Yeah, great.
wandering around the house and just splurting off all kinds of weird stuff, is that it really does boil down to a lot of fake nonsense, and a lot of craziness, that it's all taken too far. And we've gotten into mask violence, not mass violence, but we've gotten into mask violence. It's
Masked mask violence.
fights breaking out in the middle. This is stuff in our area. This isn't, I'm not repeating news I heard on television. I'm repeating stuff that we've witnessed in person. Just the sheer crazy behavior, and how mad it has made folks. Uh, Fights breaking out in freaking grocery stores because someone wants to run around and tell everybody they're wearing their mask wrong. And not just that, but now there's a lot of confrontation because now it's mandatory here to wear masks. And they're handing out masks at the fronts of most of these places. And that being said, it's leading to a lot of confrontation at the front. At the front, like you're on your way in, you already hear an argument breaking out over why they have to do it, or this and that. And it's a lot of that going on right now. And I mean, it's really that, it's kind of like some of my family members have already decided that they didn't want to have anything to do with all this nonsense, right? So what they decided to do is shop online for everything. And that's what a lot of people are going to do. They're not even going to bother going and getting hassled or harassed, especially by other people in the store harassing about the type or wear or how to's and all that involving the mask BS. Is that is going to be the major thing. And I think what's harder for me and Sip is that we both have three kids to take care of. And then you get the well, how old are they? Because by law, if they're 12 and up, they got to wear a mask, right? So we've got that. We've got to deal with school starting back and mixed school schedules of like
Different counties.
different counties and different locations. Just kind of giving you an update on the things we're dealing with here. To you guys can mirror them up to what's going on in your states and local areas if that helps at all. But for you know social there's social distancing, but there's no such thing as social listening. So it's we don't have to that we don't have to social distance ourselves. You can social listen, and you can social talk and chat through this live stream. It's uh you're not supposed to communicate with one another. Don't talk to one another. Keep your distance from one another. Don't stand too close because you might hear what they're saying, right? It seems a little odd, and
Hey, all I gotta say is there's probably a lot of underage drinkers that are happy their face is covered.
yeah.
Let me see
That
your
was-
ID.
Okay. You said that, and it was funny because I had to show my ID at Lowe's, and when I did, it's why am I showing my ID? They can't even see who I am anyway.
Just your eyeballs.
It's just
you got
my
the right eye
eyeballs.
color, you're good.
But a lot of folks are being separated by this sort of thing,
Yeah.
and I've noticed for years. I know you guys have noticed for years, and I go back to like the town, the county I was raised in, because I was born and raised in Tennessee, and going back there, I have these memories of, and I'm going to share this with you guys. I don't know if it's helpful at all, but it's good thought because I know a lot of you are probably old enough to remember drastic changes in the United States, and it's kind of like for me, in my hometown, I remember there being this little corner store at the top down the road, and I used to steal my dad's truck. It was before I had a license and everything, right? And we lived on country roads. Everything was gravel mostly, and I used to steal my dad's truck, and it was an old '70s Chevy. I think it was a '70. I can't remember the year. But anyways, it was an old '70s Chevy, and it just sit in the back, and it just sat there collecting rust or whatever. But I used to jack that thing, and I would drive up to the store, and I'd meet my friends there, and we would shoot pool. We'd have a bologna sandwich, barbecue bologna sandwich, and we'd hang out. When you walked into this place, you could hear the creaky floors, right? And you got flies everywhere and stuff, but nobody notices stuff like that because we're all in the South, it's country, and it's something you're used to. If you got a house in the country, you've got flies in your house, right? Everybody has that problem. So, and now I go back, and those mom and pop corner stores are gone, and they're replaced with Dollar General, Family Dollar, Dollar General, and all these different things. And a lot of folks, I remember as I got older, everyone was headed into town to go shop at Walmart. And I sit back, just yesterday I was sitting back thinking about it, and I said, Walmart and a lot of these other big corporations have destroyed the American dream. They have destroyed these small businesses, and because that I remember hanging out, having a cup of coffee, listening to the farmers gossip, and a lot of that stuff is a thing of the past now. It really is a thing of the past now, and it really bothers me every single day, and how sociable we all used to be. And we could sit down and have a cup of coffee, hang out, eat a barbecue bologna sandwich, and everybody was happy, but they were getting things off their chest, getting back on the road, going back to wherever they had to go, and getting their work done out in the scorching heat. And now it's we all go to a place in a single file line, 6 feet apart, We keep our mouths shut, head and eyeball straight to the front.
You got your cattle gate right there in
Cattle
the front.
gate. You
That's stupid
you
Walmart.
you got your feeding bag on your face. You
Mhm.
know, I fill mine up with Skittles.
I was telling BA he needed to make a meme about the mask, and he's like, everybody's burnt out on the mask.
Everybody's burnt out on masks.
I'm like, no, but it's anybody see the My Little Pony movie where they get enslaved by, was it Thunderstorm?
Well, I don't
Whatever
remember.
his name is, and
No,
like,
no, that's the thunderstorm guy, but
yeah, whatever his name is. And when they enslave the poor little ponies,
it's the angry pony.
they put this like mask over their face so they can't talk. And I'm like, dude, that's coronavirus. Somebody knew before this all went down that was going to happen to us.
But you don't let a good crisis go to waste. It's got to be used. You got to use the crisis, and it's very important to
Storm
utilize.
King.
Storm King. I need somebody. See, Dad on YouTube has kids.
Yes.
He knows. He
Yes.
knows what's up. I get stuck watching a lot of this stuff, and it's like she was quoting Maynard's Tales the other day. She's like, "Where did I hear that from?" I said, "Babe, that's Maynard's Tales."
I'm like, oh crap, I'm
like,
quoting
oh my
kid
goodness.
movies and stuff.
Oh my
Without
goodness.
realizing.
Tell me, if you got kids, you've got some weird quotes that come out.
And high blood pressure.
And high blood pressure, that's right. But noticing the change in the U.S. back then, everyone rushing to Walmart and stuff like that. And now everyone's not just, check it out, this is how it's turned. This is how it's turned. We don't need Walmart, right? No, nobody needs Walmart now because my family members that had told me that they're shopping online for everything just reminded me of something. And it got me thinking about how we've declined so much to put up Dollar Generals on every corner, okay? To Walmarts in every city and every town. And I get to thinking about all that stuff, and the restaurants are closing down and all that stuff. Well, and then they say, well, we don't even deal with it. We just order everything online. And it got me concerned because I was like, well, I wonder how many other people are doing that. And I imagine quite a few that don't want to deal with going out and facing it. And then a few months of that, it's just like anything that I've read from history when it led to the aftermath, the recovery, and every single person that did those little interviews, and I can't quote any of them because I don't remember all the little details of every one of them, so I'm not, because someone will say I have the year wrong or something, so I'm not going to say it. But every single one of them at the end of it would say that there was never a real recovery from what they had went through. The traumatic experiences that everyone had went through, there was never a recovery from that. It was just like the way they lived out their daily lives. There was like they had learned to turn off hope. All of them had lost hope. All of them had turned that off, and then they instilled that in their children. And going out into public had changed dramatically. They would think that hey, I should be happy now, after everything is over, and it's going to be just like those. It's just like the history stories, but it'll be in this time period. Folks will be, well, I'm back in Walmart again. I should be happy, but why aren't I happy?
Sure,
It's still not the same. It's not going to be the same. You should be shopping. You're shopping again. You're buying stuff, but it's not the same anymore. It's that hope that now you're distanced. There's this border set up. There's a wall between you and other people now.
You have the intercom going off. It doesn't matter what store you're in. Thank you for shopping at so-and-so. Please keep your mask on at all times and remain 6 feet away from the next individual in front of you and wash your hands regularly.
You hear that every few minutes. And I was commenting to someone's tweet the other day where they had posted this scenery. It was a beautiful scenery of a waterfall. It looked like you ever seen those bottles of Fiji water? That image on the back of the Fiji water? it looked like a Fiji Water scene, right? And they're like, wow, you know, and everybody's commenting, that's beautiful, blah 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 blah, and I just kind of was joking. I said, yeah, that's like my dream that I have. I'm seeing this, and then I hear an old lady's voice in the background go, sir, sir, you need to put on a mask, sir, mask. That's all I can remember about the dream, and that's
People checking
I'm gonna
temperatures.
live with that for the rest of my life now. Sir, put on a mask. Where's your mask? And but there was that.
Yeah.
A lot of folks are calling it pandemic. I've heard, and there's just a lot of crazy stuff going on. I didn't want to take up too much time with my little, but there's the what ifs, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you were saying some of the things that you wanted to talk about, and I was like, man, that's a lot of, you know, if those guys had done this, or if those guys had done that, or this had happened and that had happened, that probably wouldn't have happened, and they wouldn't have fallen so far off course, or this and that, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And you're going through some old stories, some old wartime stories to me, and it gets a lot of what ifs going. It gets a lot of should haves. Well, you should have packed to this, or you should have packed to
No.
that. But you can't pack all that in your bag, and I think you're going to cover quite a bit of that kind of
Yeah.
conversation. I think I'm gonna let you have it. I was gonna talk about zombies, but then I get to rambling about
Talk about your zombies.
the zombies.
Yeah.
Well, it goes back to, have any of you guys and gals ever read?
Hey, Alan. Hey, Teddy.
I've got it right here. Zombie the Zombie Survival Guide. Have any of you guys and gals ever read this? There's a story in this book, if you've ever read it, and you're probably familiar with it. But there's a story in that book about a town. They had a rat problem, and the rats were biting people. And in the process of that, they were biting people while they were passed out, sleeping, or whatever. And they were having reports of zombie-like behavior, that they would get bit by a I know that sounds
Yes,
a little,
it is Hannibal. It's legit.
it sounds a little yes, it's a real book. He actually wrote like 3 books or something. They're really good books. They're really popular. If it's got some detailed survival stuff in it. It's actually really unique. It also goes into the breakdown of how a zombie apocalypse would start and all that. So it's interesting read. Anyway, this was just kind of back in the day. I read that book. I thought it was hilarious, but it also has some really good tips. The point is that they also provide like some stories from history where small towns had just been devoured up, just disappeared off the map because of strange activities, strange things, kind of X-File-ish kind of things, right?
Hand of the red
hand of the red hand.
Stimulus
Thank you.
money.
You're so ridiculous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
I'm not gonna let it ring for too long, just in case it causes a disruption. Thank you. But in one of the small, no, not my ear. You're gonna do it. Okay. Just gonna keep. Are you done?
Oh, Wes says he loves zombie stories.
I can't tell the zombie story.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Wes. I can't tell the zombie
Appreciate
story. You keep whacking the bell. You have to calm,
Ring my bell.
calm down.
Ring my bell. Sorry,
Well,
I had a lot of marshmallows in that one.
It tells stories. Let's back to that book real quick. I'll pull it up again in case somebody's
Sorry,
wanting to
Alan.
look for it and they don't
Prepare
know.
your ears.
Just in case you guys. It's by Max Brooks, okay? And he is also the author of World War Z. He's the one that wrote World War Z. Also, they use his book for the movie. And
I'm sorry,
you get the idea. Most folks don't know all that, but wrote some really good books. But in this book, there's also features some stories of events in history.
Oh, ZQ Spider,
that
where
it
you
happened.
been, bro? Ring the bell.
Nice.
Watch your ears, Alan.
Where'd you put the thing?
FL.
I don't want it too loud. It echoes, man, in here. It's like crazy.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Appreciate it. Hope you've been doing good.
But the book tells stories in history where towns have been just wiped off the map, right?
Right.
And they didn't really communicate. I mean, this goes back to a lot of towns that probably just disappeared and turned into ghost towns over time because mysterious things happened in the town. They didn't have, it was kind of before the age of medicine and yada yada and that type of thing, right?
Right.
And a lot of places could have just disappeared, right? And but the they had discovered there was zombies wandering around the town, and there was human beings that were raged out and biting other humans and just attacking people while they were sleeping and all kinds of stuff.
Bath
and
salts.
Crazy, like they were on bath salts, kind of. Yeah. It was kind of like those stories you hear about, like in Florida, where old boys running down the street naked and biting people, right?
In the face.
And screaming and flipping over upside down and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Well, those kinds of things, but it was because of rabies infested rats is what they had discovered, that these folks were getting bit by rats in their sleep and then wandering out, and they were raging out on rabies.
Yeah.
And that story came from, well, you were telling me about bats and yada 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 yada. I'm not gonna go into details, but
yeah.
There's chimney sweepers and bats and things like that. I mean, there's that slim chance, there's slim possibility there that something like that could happen. But today in modern medicine, that sort of thing doesn't really, and back in the day, there was a lot of crazy stories like that, the spooky ones where there was actually real life zombies, but they were just really jacked up on some rabies.
Yeah.
I just wanted to tell that little story real quick because I just found it kind of interesting, and you'll find stuff like that in that book. It's kind of cool. But yeah, I was supposed to turn it over to you now. That was my last one.
Okay.
From me. The next is all you. You got
I don't know
crazy.
if I can do for 30 minutes, but
30 minutes?
I mean,
I'll jump back in.
You
I mean,
jump back in later, yeah.
we're probably going to conversate about the stuff that you conversate about.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't get concerned about, because
Well,
are you worried about time?
No.
My talking time?
I'm not the white rabbit on Alice in Wonderland.
I'll keep talking while you're talking. It's okay. I can stretch it out. I can keep talking and then
No, I just want to say my piece.
She's worried about, because we usually stay on for an hour, so it's like, I don't know if I can talk for 30 minutes. And it's like, well, hey, I talk for 30 minutes.
Hey, Foco.
Right.
No worms. I'm sorry. I have not heard of any coronavirus worms as of yet. But
you had some good stories you were sharing.
But I just had some interesting perspectives to show about how people, when you think of times of war and crisis and craziness, people neglect to think medicine is very, very essential, I think, because with war, you have, weapons of opportunity, especially if you have a Marine, you can use a rock as a weapon. It doesn't necessarily have to be a gun or a machete.
Weapons are usually the first thing everyone stocks up on, but in reality, you and I both agree, you can find weapons.
You can.
There's always makeshift weapons you can come up with. Not a gun for most cases, though.
Right. So I was kind of reading through my history book. I thought it was interesting in the Mexican-American War, of the 13,000 Americans that died, less than 2,000 died from Mexican bullets. It was pretty much all disease or infection. Mostly they had the yellow fever, I think malaria, and no, not so much malaria, smallpox, cholera, dysentery.
It's like Oregon Trail.
No.
I'm just joshing you.
That was more
you've died from dysentery.
No, that was more exposures and starvation, buddy. But I mean, that's things that, if war outbreaks, especially even here in America, internally. Are those people that run our water going to make sure it's kept clean?
Exactly.
Or are they going to get, uh, surrounded by the stupid BLM group that block roads and they can't get to their job on time, or they can't get to their job, period. Same
There's a
with
lot of that
electricity.
going on right now, blocking roads.
Protests, anyways, protest peacefully, don't be jerks.
Yeah, they can't save anyone's life because you're blocking the road.
But anyways, we won't get too political.
Yeah, don't do that.
I'm not. So, but that's just things to think of. We could see, nasty water starting to rise again, and you got to be careful about what comes out of your faucet. So make sure you have, things like bleach or even chlorine tablets, and just simple boiling. And hopefully then that might go to the part where we don't have electricity. So do you have a backup to get something boiling? Do you have a little fire pit that you can just go ahead and use? It doesn't have to be like a Coleman camp or what are those things?
Should have, yeah. I got all kinds of them.
Those the propane gas.
Propane thing. I got one down there.
But do you have enough wood or trees? Because we lived in many places where we didn't even have really any trees surrounding us. It was just all like freaking desert.
And this goes into a lot of what ifs and should haves, because if you think about it, here's the thing, like if you do like the kits, the survival kits and things, and you're looking online, you go, I'm looking for an idea for a survival kit, and you go and you look to see what somebody else has put together, and you'll go there and they'll recommend you should have candles, you should have this, or you should have that, and in the end, it's not all the what ifs that's going to happen, because loss of water, loss of electricity. You got to think big.
You do, and well, not just big but simple too. You have, I'm sure everybody's so sick and tired of hearing wash your hands, but do you got soap or things to clean your linens or your clothes? And but they quoted one Tennessean man from the Mexican-American War that stated, from his observation, nearly all who got sick died. That was like a death sentence, because they saw, medicine. They didn't really have much medicine. They didn't really have much education as far as like things to make sure you clean your water, boil it, and so on and so forth. So it's like a death sentence pretty much.
Yeah.
And then of course we all know, like the Civil War, the majority of them got killed from usually infection, because the surgeons just would wipe their scalpels off the back underneath of their boots or just off their pants, and let me just push some more germs and MRSA into your system here. Let me just give you infection. So we know a lot of people die more of infection than the wound itself.
And that was, that goes into a lot of the folks didn't know better in certain situations.
Yep. Things you have to learn, unfortunately, through a lot of death. And then of course Columbus times was syphilis, and during the Spanish conquest, I didn't realize when the Spanish came over and they were trying to conquer, well, they pretty much did conquer like Mexico City area. They wiped out 90% of the Indians that lived there through those diseases they've never been exposed to. Which to them, they were upset, because they were actually going to, planning on enslaving all of the Indians over there to build their cities. So, unfortunately, they infected them with measles, smallpox, and respiratory viruses, and that wiped 90% of them out. And then I've been reading this World War II book. Gosh, what was the name of it? Do I have it around here? I think it's over here.
Yeah, it's just sitting right there on you. She has been telling me some crazy stories from that book about World War II.
Well,
tell
I
me some
like
really
to
good
read about
stories.
all the details and
She'll
stuff.
just start reading, and then she's like,
I
"Hey,
like this book.
get this," and she just starts telling me all about it.
Guns at Last Light. It's the third trilogy of this one
Yeah.
author.
Guns at Last Light.
It's really good. I haven't really gotten too far. I barely skimmed the surface, but he starts pretty much with the Overlord project, getting geared up to hit the beaches of Normandy, and it was really interesting reading about the devastations with England and all the rats that they had to deal with in the sewers and the diseases that they had to battle with. It was pretty gross, and all the feces they burned because they shipped all the American troops over to Britain first, and having to deal with all that waste. You had to get rid of it some way, so they burn all the feces. But anyways, just some little things. I just like to
Don't want to gross
share.
you out too much.
Yeah.
It was.
I'll keep it.
It was
not too
It was a
bad.
nasty war.
But luckily, World War II, penicillin was already discovered, and they had over 600,000 doses of penicillin. But unfortunately, reading the drops out of the back of
Those were awful.
the planes, and how many things got broken or sunk into marshes or completely like off the mark.
The stuff that they gave them that they lost.
They lost so many supplies. It was such a waste. You're just like, wow, that's really bad. But
And then they get thrown off course.
Yeah.
You were telling me how they would get thrown off course. They land in a totally different place, or over the ocean, and their gear was so heavy that it weighted them down, and they drowned.
Well, and I was reading like things I would have never thought about. I mean, no matter how much you try to prepare for a crazy type of war, was the paratroopers that were on the planes getting ready to jump. Most of them got airsick, and there was vomit all over the floor. And they said 24 paratroopers never even got to jump. They had to fly back to England because when they were trying to stand up and with all the turbulence, they slipped on all the vomit on the floor, and they all got entangled, and someone's chute got thrown open, and it was just a nice vomity mess.
And you were telling me about pack sizes and how interesting that situation got, because it was supposed to be originally 40 pounds, and then it led to what, 70
like
or something?
75 pounds.
Yeah, 75 pounds of gear.
And I was just giggling because the men's responses to that was, they were like, well, if we're going to be packed down like a bunch of jackasses, we might as well bomb Bray like them. So they would just complain about it, which I don't blame them. It was kind of funny. But, and then the ones, of course, that were going through the ships. Oh, I can't handle seasickness. They said the bathrooms were clogged. So
I used to watch folks throw up all the time on board ship.
Oh gosh, poop and vomit was just, that was all it was below deck, and then on top of the deck they were dealing with the storms, but I'd rather be on the top deck than getting vomited on.
You wouldn't be all the way out yet, and you'd already see so many different folks just hanging over the side. They'd never been aboard ship before, so they're just barfing all over the place.
AC-103.
Most of the Marines that we were with had never been aboard ship before, so they were barfing all over the place. It's like, oh man. And so it's a weird feeling day after day, sleeping aboard ship too.
Yeah, I mean, I just love of course, the medical side of it. It gives me kind of ideas to think about or stuff to try and plan for. Cause
trying to bench press on a ship is awful.
Oh,
lifting
I bet
weights,
that's fun.
because as the boat shifts, you're trying to bench, and then all of a sudden your weights go over here, and then your weight. So I tell you what, CrossFit ain't got nothing like working out on a boat, and trying to run on a treadmill is just straight up silly, because all of a sudden you're going up, and then you're going down, and it's like all of a sudden you're going up a hill running, you're trying to stay in shape, right? And you're running, and then it's up, and then it goes straight down, and you're running down a hill. It's just the craziest feeling aboard ship.
Gosh, my vertigo could not handle that.
It screws you up, man. It screws you up.
I would be puking. I just, ugh. But anyways, like they did they did try to prepare. They gave them their little motion sickness pills, and you know, one guy, sorry, I gross yellow, but one guy was saying it was like trying to swallow a pork bone. It would just kind of go down, and then it would kind of come back up and get stuck in your throat, and then go back down. That was so gross. Those poor soldiers, man. But anyways, other things that I was reading, you know, all the multiple dirty instruments that must pile up and linens. You know, if you can't have a way to, if you can't clean them, you know, you got to think of ways to dispose them, because you don't want all that soiled bodily fluid stacking up. And I mean, I guess the best way to burn them, but you know, in times of you know, like World War II, where it's so big, they couldn't really waste resources like fuel to burn stuff, let alone, you know, they didn't have any electricity.
They were pinching pennies.
Yeah, they didn't want to.
Resources
They didn't want to use those resources on burning stuff, and you know, the bodies are accumulating, and man, it's so crazy how fast you go through supplies with people. I mean, even just
that's something you guys talk about every day.
I mean, even when just like my 6 to 7 patient workload, it's amazing how one patient alone can just accumulate so much linen. I couldn't imagine trying to, I mean, get rid of it. You don't have enough manpower back then, especially to have somebody bury all this crap, and you'd be out there digging a long time to try and get rid of this stuff. And the other thing they said was like they had no good way to dispose of amputations. I couldn't imagine how many limbs had to get severed, and they said the amputations were stacking up in the garbage bins and they were overflowing. I mean, that's another thing. It's like, holy crap, that must have stank so bad. And unfortunately, like, the body count kept coming in with the injured, and you know, they say their patients would just lay there stinking in, you know, their blood-soaked gauze for days. And it's like, what can you do? That was another thing, is when you run out of resources.
Gauze is hard to come by.
Yeah, I mean, your linens will run out eventually if you don't have a good way to clean it. You don't have a good system down for somebody to wash and take care of that. So it's good for, you know, just to know your basic cleanliness to keep disease down. And I thought it was interesting. The Army said during World War II that every GI was fashioned from 4 elements body-wise: the belly, the genitalia, conditioned reflexes, and a pair of feet. And of course, I'm sure all you military people know feet are the worst.
Thank you, Cool
Thank
Hand.
you very much, Cool Hand.
Hang on.
Appreciate you, buddy.
Woo! Thank you, brother.
They said, of course, I'm sure all you military people know feet. Feet were the worst part of the body to have to try and keep up with.
I think everyone that served has realized that your feet are like the key. It's like feet first. Mm-hmm. Everything. It's your feet will go out, and then it's all over from there.
Mm-hmm. Trench foot was plagued by a lot of soldiers. It's, you know, it's that crippling injury to your blood vessels in your feet all the way up to your legs, especially if you're exposed to cold elements or even just wet and soggy elements. They consider that to actually even be an epidemic in the war, because it took away 23,000 men, nearly all combat infantry, for just one platoon area, I guess, for the Army. And where'd my other paper go?
I was trying to read Rachel's
comment.
Yeah.
I apologize. Forgot my other paper.
Yeah. Your feet get jacked up aboard ship.
And it counted for a fourth of all of the military people hospitalized was due to feet. A fourth.
And,
That's a lot of people.
and
And
it's
4 out of 10 people were sent home with an injury or disability due to that foot.
it wasn't just you don't just have. I mean, you get feet fungus issues from any uh, heck any duty station just about. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you're I mean, think about it. You're either sharing a head, which is, aka a bathroom, with another individual, and out of that, I mean, there's just so many germs, and you can't get them all from doing your daily field days and whatnot. You can't get all the germs out. And some of the places that you go, especially if you're aboard ship and you're in a berthing, I mean, berthings get nasty. I mean, just disgusting sometimes. And you got folks, I mean, this nasty smells and everything else. It's just imagine like, 100 dudes in one berthing, or 100 chicks in one berthing. I mean, it doesn't matter. It just, everyone works, and some folks, they do nasty stuff like they hot rack and stuff, right? They go out and they work all day, and then they don't bother taking their shower, and they've got BO funk and everything else, and that odor is just rolling. I mean, it's like steam coming off the pillows, man. It's just gross. And not just that, I mean, but you got to imagine you're all sharing a head, like I said, a bathroom, and there's like 4 showers or something, right? 2 showers, 3 showers, maybe 1 shower,
Yeah.
and you got people standing in line with their bar of soap on a rope, waiting on, and you got your flip flops that just constantly want to slip off your feet. I mean, you can't even keep those flip flops on. You got to have your flip flop, your shower shoes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're going in there to go get your shower on, and you get in there, and Lord knows what all they've done in that shower. For one, they're far away from home, so let's just throw it out there. You can wrap your mind around that. It's just nasty.
Mm-hmm.
And you go in there, and your feet and your shoes unfell off,
Mm-hmm.
and then your feet hit it, and then you go back to your rack, and you're like, I hope that got cleaned off.
Yeah.
And then you go, nope, 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 my foot's falling off, and you got foot rot, and your foot
Yeah.
falls off. I mean, that about sums up a lot of it right there, because it doesn't matter just aboard ship. It doesn't matter if you can be at 29 Palms. It doesn't matter where you are. You're going to end up in a situation where you're end up sharing spaces with folks.
Yeah.
And it just gets nasty.
Yep.
Did that help shed some light on that?
I'm sure it did for them.
Sure, somebody out there's like, "B.A., you gross. You gross dog."
Well,
That's so nasty.
And the sad thing is from the time, like when they were fighting over in Italy and stuff, they had ample experiences to know to teach these poor American guys, because the British already have gone through it, Germans already gone through it. They didn't educate them on things like, hey, if your socks are soaked, put on dry socks.
Yeah.
Check your feet daily. You
Moleskin.
can give them massages. Other education, I was thinking, it's kind of like what we give diabetics. They can't really feel the nerves of their feet. Make sure you don't have cuts, and well-fitting shoes. And of course, during that time, they had like 3 or 4 different prototypes, and each of them, of course, sucked. So they couldn't get a good, well-fit shoe, and then they were told to tighten the laces down really hard. Well, that's going to restrict your blood flow. And most of those soldiers would wear their wet shoes for 5 to 10 days. 5 to 10 days, gosh, that's gonna
It's funny you
create
say
so
it.
much mold.
I love the civilian talk. It's like it's boots instead of shoes. But you say shoes, so some folks like shoes, boots. Yeah, I'm sure they have boots.
Yeah, that was all they said was boots. They didn't wear any high tops or
They
sneakers.
wear Nikes.
They didn't have flip flops.
Nike high tops
They had
and
just
flip
all they
flops.
had was boots. Straight
Boots.
up boots.
Straight up boots.
But I just thought, that's just stuff that's interesting
And you had a point.
for me. But
You had a point. You were telling me your point to kind of, the what ifs and should haves discussion.
Mm-hmm.
How you were saying like how we get in a rush to buy ammo and firearms and stuff, which is a very key important item to have. But
Mm-hmm.
it's one of the most neglected ones is the medical items,
Yeah.
medical supplies, and the fact that you could be alone. I mean, it could be just you and your family, but
Mhm.
there might not be socializing with the neighbors anymore. The neighbors are gone.
East Tennessee
East Tennessee, thank you.
preparedness.
Boom.
Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
let me want that.
Appreciate you.
It echoes. It echoed again. It's like, it's crazy. Thank you.
Don't forget to neglect your medicine down to like your just basics. I mean,
And most
you
of the
can't
most of the
improvise with medicine for some things.
most of the war history that I've read, just from the civilian standpoint, from some of the stories that I've heard in the civilian uh, stories,
Mhm.
you know, individual homes, and how they they ended up their you end up with neighbors that tried to steal from other neighbors to get stuff, and then people getting shot left and right, people getting sick and dying because literally they had said that, you know, like when it comes to like government, law enforcement, and all those things, they're just words to them. They're just words because they don't exist. Those outside entities are not there anymore
Mhm.
because they are alone. They still have the same place that they were living in, but they're alone and they have only what they got, and that's it. And some of those people, you know, people over here and people over there, and it's like, well, you know, the Smiths don't live there anymore because they all died. You know, that's the kind of stories you would read from history,
Yep.
and so it's something to consider now. You need to think about.
It's kind of hard to think of as we're living such a modernized,
I know.
well, not really civilized much, but modernized world where we got a lot of resources. But
If
I
UPS
mean,
and the post, if the post office system, I mean, if the U.S. Postal Service were to go out of business, right?
mhm.
You got to think. I mean, I can come up with different kinds of scenarios. These are what ifs, right? The what ifs and should haves, right? And what if, you know, something like that was happening? So there's no more U.S. Postal Service, and say, well, there's FedEx, and there's UPS. Well,
Yeah.
what happens when all of those go out because of well, due to the COVID-19, there's no more deliveries. See what I mean?
Yeah, you can. I mean, boiling your linens is a good way to clean them. I just add a couple of drops of bleach, or depending on how big your pot is, just it helps disinfect a little bit more. But I mean, it's getting crazy. ERs are getting packed and slammed again, and it's just
People always do the whole, what do you mean by crazy? Crazy how is how everybody, because folks folks come at me with the whole, is there a lot more domestic violence now than there was before? People have had that question. You know, ask Sippy if there's more domestic violence than normal, or if there's this, or if there's that. The kids are
yeah.
talking like crazy.
Shut your door. If you're thirsty, swallow your spit. That's what my dad told me.
You, Ellie, you can have my water. I've got ice. I got some ice cold water you can have.
No, doors are shut.
I don't think they're shut. But yeah, I mean, a lot of folks will ask me questions like, uh, y-
Hey Nick, hope you're doing good.
like if you guys are seeing like more domestic violence type stuff, or people, you know, Bill and Frank getting beat up in the parking lot over a mask or something, or
No,
you know,
just
what kind of
more
weird stuff do you see
more
nowadays?
dental problems are starting to stockpile up where people can really have access to the dentist. People were coming
Oh,
in
that's
from
right.
like trying to remove teeth themselves and it
So
doesn't work, and
So a lot of the dentist offices were closed, right, during
right.
the pandemic thing with the lockdown, right?
Yeah.
And so people had a lot of problems with that. That's crazy.
Yeah, so things like
But
that. And
folks, you know, folks are like, you know, well, when you say crazy, what do you mean by crazy? Does that mean that the COVID's done blown up out of control? It's taking over and there's bodies falling into the street, or, you know, people get to thinking stuff like
mm,
that, and it's not really that kind of crazy going on. It's more of a
It's just
more
trying
of
to
a
catch up from
catch
what
up.
everything's been closed and shut down.
Yeah.
People having lack of access and resources to things, and and then now
I
the
guess.
coronavirus is exploding again. So now you're getting
Yeah.
people panicking and
Wanting to
coming
get
in,
tested.
and it's just that kind
Test me. I think I got the
of
COVID, and
crazy.
it's like, girl, you got the flu. What'd you think? What? Ready the flu room.
Yeah.
Dawn and clear the flu area. Anyway,
Yeah.
it's cray cray. It's cray cray out there. Anyways, I guess that's all I got. You ain't got nothing else?
No.
Was that all you wanted to add? You did want to highlight though medical supplies. Thank you, Wes.
Some KoolAid.
KoolAid. KoolAid. Kids, you get KoolAid thanks to Wes.
That's right.
The KoolAid Man.
Definitely.
KoolAid Man walks in the room. KoolAid. Hey,
I
who
want
wants
some
some KoolAid?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. The I guess the main thing to take from the because you can we all say you can the what ifs and the should haves will eat your brain, right? And the what ifs do tend to pile up because if you think the should haves, and I could go on like I should have bought more animals. I should have more animals. I should have done this or I should have done that. I could go through some should haves of my own. And I know a lot of you can go through should haves all day. And a lot of you could write down a list of your own what ifs. And, but your should haves are going to happen. But there's nothing you can do about that. All you can do is figure out what your family needs and just try to get what you can done in your limited amount of time that you have, and just do it discreetly like I've always done it. I've never, you'll never see me, buying a huge quantity of rice or something at the store because I don't do it that way. I've always done it piece by piece. Everything I've accumulated has been in small quantities, and you can agree to that, right? It's always been kind of in small quantities until we reach a certain level, then we put it all in one thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's always been kind of been that way.
Yeah.
And the fact that we've been doing it for several years is how it gets to be like, did we really do all that? And everyone is never too late for some of these folks out there that are getting into it now, because I know a lot of folks are, and it's never too late. I mean, and don't get in confrontations with people, because a lot of people are really obsessed with certain things. They've been watching the chaos and all this stuff going on day after day, and a lot of folks are on edge, and they're willing to pick a fight with you over anything. They'll get in your face about anything these days, and you have to keep all that in mind to just be concerned with what you have, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just focus on what you should take care of. And because if you let the other stuff distract you, you'll never get your priorities taken care of. Your food, your shelter situation, your security, all the other things that you're going to need, your medical supplies. You're never going to get all that stuff taken care of if you keep focusing on all the hype, all the media stuff. You've got to just keep trucking, basically. I told the wife what multiple times the past week that that I want to prepare now more than I ever have before, and I said, it's uh, being prepared, and then there's no such thing as an over prepared, you know. But I've wanted to prepare even more than I've ever wanted to before. This isn't like, Bob goes and buys his first shotgun and a few cases of ammo. This is bigger than that. I mean, this is much bigger than that. And we're even incorporating family members and folks that may at some point possibly have to evacuate, and they may have to uh, help us with crops. I mean, it may get that bad, and you have to start thinking ahead. We're at that point. We're not
Yeah,
at the.
I have a feeling Democrats gonna win no matter what in November, and it's gonna be awful.
Our seed bucket has. We've paid more focus to our seed buckets than we ever have this year, and it's pretty crazy. We we can't. We. It's like, should I get more carrots? I should get more carrots. I like carrots. I'm gonna eat those carrots. You know,
And we know, hey,
it's, it's like, are
this
we gonna? And it's we stop and go. It's
well,
like, wait, there might be somebody else that needs these carrots too. It's like I'm gonna throw another one in
well, in
there.
the experiment, we found out, well, this brand of seed works a lot better
I
than this
know
one.
we did test this year.
The color carrots grow
Hey, let me go get.
fat.
I want to get that squash. I want to show them that big fat.
They grow really well,
Monster
better than the
squash.
typical regular orange carrots. Those.
I don't want to bring. I don't want to bring all of it over here. I'm pretty sure they've all seen a tomato before, but our
Well,
squash has turned out really good.
yeah.
I just ripped this one off. Me and Boo Boo Bear went out and ripped a few of these guys off, and they've turned out really good. I'm looking at recipes on how I want to cook and eat this thing. I'm eating a lot more vegetables, and
Producing a lot more methane.
you feel
Woo!
the other positive note to
Get you some
this
some Beano.
this goes back to the should haves. I should have made my garden bigger,
I
or I
should
should
have
have
bought more Beano.
You're so ridiculous. Anyway,
That's all right. Cabbage has gotten to me too.
you feel better. I mean, you feel a lot better just because instead of canning most of the stuff that we do, because you can only can so much, and then you reach the point was like, well, you eat the rest, so it's eating time. And but lately, I've been feeling a whole lot better eating more vegetables. I tell you that, and we've had quite a few this year, but that's another thing that goes into this stuff.
Fancy.
And to hear others, what was it, Michigan, and like the mayor and stuff, and everybody was saying things. I was hearing all these rumors how non-essential items was gardening. It was in the list of non-essential items. That's non-essential, human. Get back to work, that kind of thing. That's non-essential items. Anyway, gardening is not a non-essential thing. That is a serious thing, and you have to take it serious, and you have to have a big garden to feed your family. You're just not going to have enough, and you've got to know your cycles, and you've got to know what to do with it once it's there, and how to keep it growing year round, that kind of thing. And that's part of the frost protection type stuff and cold frames. And that's another project for another day, is
Hmm.
the actual cold frames that I want to be able to. But I guess that's all I got. I just want to leave you guys with that before I got off here, because I think it's important. But you don't have anything else?
Mm-mm.
That's it.
That's it.
I guess that's all we got. And I just want to say thank you, guys and gals. If it wasn't for you guys and gals pushing us along and tuning in, we couldn't be here without you guys. And uh, I can't thank you enough for all you guys that help us out there.
Yep.
I appreciate it.
Stay strong. Stay sane. God bless.
God bless. Take care.